I've actually started to do blood work. I'm 39 years old and I have some things that are going on and I'm like, I feel like I need to get my blood checked. So I've had 3 blood draws now and just to kind of figure out things that are going on. And do you recommend that be something that people do regularly, only when they need it? And like, what kind of tests are good to know?
I mean, testing is always for an, desired outcome, right? So I think first and foremost, you should always have an annual hormone panel when you go to the gynecologist. Now, they may not want to cover that. That's the problem, right? So, but I do think we should be annually checking how we're doing with
Yeah.
estrogen, progesterone, thyroid, all of those things.
Yeah.
Since we can't often get that covered by insurance, especially when there are no problems, I think that's where at-home hormone testing is becoming a really great solution.
Yeah.
Where you can, by using either dried urine analysis, saliva, or even blood spot, really get some accurate information over time. And that's the thing. If you're testing your hormones for, let's just say, to see how your cycle is doing as a whole, and keep in mind, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists decreed that your cycle now be considered a 5th vital sign, right? So that means you want to take it as seriously as you take an elevated temperature, right? So if that's the case, then we should be evaluating our cycle as a whole over the course of a month. So a single blood test is like a Polaroid picture. It's
Right.
a snapshot of what the hormone concentrations are in your blood at that particular moment of the blood draw,
Right.
which is less relevant if you're trying to see, well, how is my estrogen changing throughout the month? And what are my progesterone levels during my luteal phase? It's not as helpful of a test. So that's where some other testing that you can do at home is more valuable. If you're doing some baseline testing, day 3 testing for fertility kind of evaluation, that's a very good thing to do. Although we now know that AMH levels, I think women get really concerned about their AMH levels. We know for sure that doesn't necessarily dictate how much fertile time you have left. It's about egg quality, not egg quantity, it turns out. So don't be overly concerned about that number if that number is, not what you think it should be. The better number to be looking at is follicular stimulating hormone, right? If your FSH numbers are too high, then that's a better indication. If you're, let's say, looking through the lens of how are you doing from a fertility point of view, that's a much better indicator of, are you prematurely hormonally aging? Because if you're aging too quickly, that FSH number is going to go up and up and up earlier. FSH, is the hormone that stimulates the ovulation process, right? If it gets too high, the body stops ovulating. This is the whole process of perimenopause. Now, it begins at 35 for every woman. Okay, but that's not anything to be alarmed about. Think about, again, puberty begins in the brain, it begins around 9, 10, but it doesn't complete until age 22. Okay, the whole journey of pubescence.
Right.
Same thing with perimenopause. It's a 10 to 15 year journey easily.
Yeah.
So it's good that it starts early and that it takes a long time. You tend to not notice any irregularities in ovulation and menstruation until your mid to late 40s if you're taking care of your cycle, which is another reason why the cycle syncing method that I created, which supports your cyclical hormones, right, in your reproductive years, is such an important thing for you to do. If you know you're going to be delaying your motherhood journey, you want to preserve and protect your cycle as optimally as possible. And the cycle syncing method is really the best way for you to do that. And that way you can slow down that premature aging, make sure that you're not having a quick rise in your FSH levels. That would be an indicator, a much better indicator of, where you are with fertility than the AMH piece. Although, it's an important data point, but I would argue that FSH is more relevant.
What are your thoughts on IVF and what that does to the body? I did it when I was 33, and I don't know. I feel like in my intuition, I can go, I think everything changed. I mean, like, I just think that like it was such a roller coaster for 4 or 5 weeks that,
Mm.
and it also was the thing that happened. It's in the end, the name of the podcast is Pretty Intense because I wrote a book called Pretty Intense. And the reason why the book came was because I did that. And then I gained 5 pounds just because of hormones. And I was like, oh my God, hormones are real. Oh my God, it's not just like eat less, it's a real thing. Because I know that this is something that, I used it for my own reason because I wasn't in a situation where I knew my future. So
Yeah.
I did it proactively. But there are people doing it in the moment to try and get pregnant as quickly as possible because it's something that is hard for them. So, what is really happening to the body, and then perhaps, for those who have done it, like what's the sort of fallout or the repercussions of the recovery after that much control from the outside instead of the inside.
Listen, I think it is an extraordinary thing that we have assisted reproductive technology because unfortunately we're in a situation where due to xenoestrogenic, chemical exposure, both the fertility rates of men and women are really on the decline. So this is not just a problem that's affecting women. For example, did you know the global sperm count for men is down 50%?
What?
Across the board.
This makes like population such a crap. Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
So it's an interesting thing. And so, I am super happy whenever there's technology that helps people, medical technology. I think it is a really good thing fundamentally.
Yeah.
So that's sort of my high level stance. What I think that we could be doing a better job with is it's going to sound like I'm repeating myself. We should be doing a better job of educating women about how they need to be interacting with their hormonal self-care so that they don't end up needing the most extreme versions of these interventions, right? Because it's like cooking. I like to cook. It's like a thing I do for relaxation. And it's kind of like, you can always add more salt to the soup, but once you put it in, you really, it's there. You can't really take it out. Right. So similarly, if you're going to think about, being on an IVF journey, is it not more logical to think, okay, gee, all right, maybe I've spent the past 15 years on a hormone suppressant medication like birth control, right? Which shuts off your hormones. Okay, so I've done that. So that's not optimal. I've had all 15 years of depleting key micronutrients that support my hormones and fertility. Got to do something about that. I've also led a pretty stressful life where I've been burning the candle at both ends, drinking coffee, having a lot of, alcohol to calm down. I eat the same kind of restricted calorie diet every day, and I do like HIIT workouts every day because I'm worried about gaining weight. And
why are you talking about me?
You and everybody else, sister, right? This is what happens when we're not given the right blueprint or the map to follow. And then you wonder why there's so much struggle around conception, because conception takes place in the body when the ecosystem is abundant, nutrient rich, hormonally balanced, when the nervous system is, calm and at equilibrium, when the immune system is functioning, when there's no inflammation. This is what the body wants from a conception point of view, because it is not just sperm meets egg, drop it into the uterus. There's a whole immunological response between the endometrium, the egg, the female body itself. It's a really delicate process. So you have to come into it like ripe like a peach. You know what I mean? from a micronutrient point of view and from a health point of view. If you roll into that process super depleted, having 2 decades of not taking care of your hormones, you might need more aggressive interventions, which is neither a good nor a bad thing. It's just more, let's understand how you ended up in that place. And then you can make a decision about what is reasonable for you. If you're out of time, and the only path forward are aggressive interventions, then that's a reasonable thing to do. If you have more time and you've acknowledged that you've done everything that kind of interrupts your body's ability to be optimally fertile, then take some time to rectify that.